Richard Hannay. Early 40s, bachelor. Still eligible, I hope, and a once decorated war hero with enough medals on my chest to put a high priest's breastplate to shame. I recently returned from a long spell in South Africa, having made a tidy sum in the diamond business. And now, in the summer of 1938, I find myself a gentleman of leisure, with enough time on my hands to engage every kind of trivial pursuit. Too much time, too little excitement. It seems churlish to complain about the endless round of dreary dinner parties, generally given by society mothers, anxious to offload their debutante daughters, the crushingly dull social functions amongst the idle Mayfair set, and the grinding bore of the gentleman's club. But I was gradually slipping into another world of numbing tedium. I longed again for the excitement of active service in the regiment, or of a spectacular find in the Cullinan. I was missing a purpose, a cause, something to make me feel alive again. What I needed was an adventure. Last night in my London flat, I received a telegram which suddenly jolted my senses out of their slumber. It was from an old Foreign Office acquaintance, Sir William Bullivant, urging that I meet him at Foss Manor without delay, for reasons of the utmost national importance. I was given no other details, and my mind raced with the possibilities. So much so that I didn't sleep a wink, and caught the first train from Paddington this morning. So here I am, travelling through the beautiful Cotswold countryside, the quintessential picture of idyllic England, and all that we hold dear. This blessed spot, this earth, this realm, this...
Ah, Hannay, delighted you could make it. It's been a long time. How have you been?
Yes, it has. Well, I've...
Let me introduce you to Commander Reginald Dunkley, MI5.
Hello.
Heard a lot about you, Hannay. Impressive record. What are you up to presently?
Well, actually, I'm...
I expect you're wondering why you're here. Telegram out of the blue, cloak and dagger and all that.
Well, yes,
We're in a bit of a tight spot, old man. Backs against the wall. Urgent action needed, etc.
Right.
Yes, we're up against it all right. Nothing less than the future of the nation at stake.
Gosh.
I'm afraid war is looking increasingly inevitable, and our opponents appear to be gaining the upper hand. We're countering, of course, but our efforts are being catastrophically undermined by a major spy network operating here under our noses.
Good Lord.
Every day that passes, vital military secrets are being leaked out of the country, and we are now at a critical point where the balance may be tipped against us.
It's a devil of a mystery how they're doing it. Our security has never been tighter.
We need to get someone inside this network, find out what's going on and break it up fast.
I should say.
We've tried already, of course. A number of our people have been assigned the task with varying degrees of success.
There has been some success, then?
No. But if we were to tell you that all the agents we've assigned to this case have been horribly slaughtered without providing any useful information to us, then you might think twice about becoming involved.
I see.
Let's just say it's proving a tough nut to crack.
Hannay, there's someone we'd like you to meet. One of our top agents. Isabel van Stroot. She can fill you in on some of the details.
Hello, Mr. Hannay.
Please, call me Richard.
I suppose Dick would be overfamiliar?
Well, let's start with underfamiliar and work our way up, eh?
Very well, Richard.
Normally, I like to be seated before I let a beautiful woman sit in my lap.
Isabel, perhaps you could explain to Hannay exactly what we're up against.
Richard, this country is facing one of the gravest situations in its history. 3 months ago, we discovered that information vital to our security was being leaked out of the country by a spy master general of quite exceptional abilities. If this information is utilized by our opponents, there will be catastrophic results for us.
Do we know who and where the spy master is?
He has been hard to track down. I can tell you that in locating this man, I first used a method which the highbrows call induction. that is to say, tracking the deeds to the door. I then followed a new approach, deduction, calculating down from the door to the deeds. I then cross-referenced the results to reach my conclusion.
Which is?
I can say quite definitely, and beyond question, that somewhere in this island is a gentleman we will call Mr. X.
Right. So we don't actually have him cornered then?
I can only say that he is extremely elusive. I believe I was on the point of exposing him 2 days ago, but my cover was suddenly blown and he went underground. It is vital that we find him.
I see. You want me to find him?
Richard, you will be hunting the most dangerous man in the world. A brilliant, high-powered brain in the game against us. He is the spider at the center of a huge web right here in England. There is a large and clever gang to help him, but he is the brain. You may not even know when you have found him. He is a master of disguise, with not one personality, but 50 personalities.
100 personalities.
200 personalities.
300.
Yes, I get the idea.
You will need all your disciplines and resolve, Richard. He is sure to try to use you for his own ends, and I can tell you, he has the most persuasive manner.
Really?
Do not be turned by his silver tongue. Sentences flow from his mouth as smooth as butter, and as neatly dovetailed as a parquet floor. You must be very careful.
Yes, that sounds like a slippery floor, all right.
We know he has established roots within a pacifist community in Cornwall, at a place called Polferro, and that is the place to start. We need you to go there immediately. Immerse yourself in the atmosphere and settle in as one of their own. See what you can find out, but do not arouse suspicion. Take the St. Perrin's cross. If you ever receive instructions from someone carrying such a cross, be sure to follow them.
One question. Why me?
You're a patriot, which means you can be trusted. You have the necessary intelligence and skills. You are not known by connected with our security services, and you've been out of the country for some time, which will help with your cover.
You're also completely expendable. Now, time is of the essence. Are you in?
All right, I'm in.
Good. Now here's what we want you to do. Whoa! Far as I go, just up there for local delivery. They call it Jimson's.
Thank you.
Good evening. Would you be seeking a room?
Yes, please. I've had rather a long journey.
Certainly. Let me see now. We have a single on the first floor. If you wouldn't mind signing the register, Mr.
Mr. Brand, yes, of course. Cornelius Brand, Kensington Gardens, Kensington.
London? I hope you'll not find our accommodation too austere, Mr. Brand. We follow a simple life here, and you must take us as you find us.
Don't worry, I'd be happy to sleep on the floor if you can give me a blanket.
I'm sure it won't come to that, Mr. Brand, for we can certainly promise you a comfortable bed. You can be sure of plenty of peace and quiet.
Wonderful. That's exactly what I hope to find here amongst other like-minded souls.
You're one of us then, Mr. Brand. A rebel against the crazy warmongers who would launch us into Armageddon.
Oh, yes, pacifist to the core, me. And from a long line of pacifists. There's not much bark on the Brand family tree, I'm happy to say. Much less bite.
Well, you'll find yourself in fine company here, Mr. Brand. Our community is a haven for peace activists and pacifist souls from all walks of life. They all come to Palfero aspiring towards a higher life of non-violence.
Hear, hear. Live and let live.
Will you be staying long?
Just as long as I make myself useful.
Ah, you're one of the doers, Mr. Brand.
Oh, I'm still finding my way, really, although I do seem to have a flair for writing.
You have the hand of one who has seen nature in wild forms.
Well, that's Kensington for you.
Ah, but you have travelled. It must be a wonderful sensation to travel the world. We must be content with our little corner.
True, dear, but there are no territorial limits for the mind. Our modest dwelling in the centre of one great laboratory of thought, Mr. Brand, here among the eager, vital people who are at the head of all the newest movements.
How marvellous! And you're here on your own?
We had a son, Mr. Brand, who we are extremely proud of. He served during the Great War.
In the army?
At His Majesty's pleasure.
Oh.
He was a conscientious objector, you see. There can be no more noble sacrifice than to give up one's freedom for refusing to fight.
Not an easy thing, mind you. 2 years in Dartmoor, he went through a lot of privatisations and hostility for the cause.
How awful. But it's important to fight for what you believe. Without actually fighting, of course.
That's the spirit, Mr. Brand.
You said had a son. He's gone?
Yes, he was assigned to changing targets on the prison rifle range. A terrible accident.
In the war?
In the back.
Crikey. A stray bullet.
Yes, 23 stray bullets. I mean, what are the chances? But we're proud. He stood up for his principles.
Indeed. Although given the circumstances, it might have been wiser to crouch a bit.
Oh, but we are going on, dear. Have you eaten, Mr. Brand?
Not since this morning. I'd kill for some supper.
We're just about to serve the evening meal. It's plain food, vegetarian, of course, but I'm sure you won't be minding that.
Anything will be fine, thank you.
If you just go through to the dining room and I'll bring it through.
Thank you.
That's perfectly all right.
Mary Lamington.
Hello. Brand. Cornelius Brand.
How unusual, having the same first and last names.
No, just Cornelius Brand.
Oh, I see. Yes, of course. Sorry.
Oh, good evening, Mary. I see you two have already been introduced.
She was the most ravishing creature I ever saw. As pretty as a picture, and as charming as anyone had a right to be.
Oh, Mr. Brand, you are making me blush.
Not you.
Oh, right.
We sat and talked and laughed, as though we had known each other for years, and I'm not embarrassed to say that I was completely smitten.
So you're a writer, Mr. Brand. How exciting.
Well, actually, I'm aspiring to be a writer. Nothing published yet, I'm afraid. I thought this particular environment would help to fire my creative expression.
I think it must be marvellous to be able to write. To take people's imaginations to places they might not otherwise experience. Every day must be a new adventure. You're so lucky.
I hadn't thought of it like that.
If I can help with anything, you only need to ask.
Well, there might be. How about dinner tomorrow night?
There is a speed limit in this village, Mr. Brand. It's 30 miles an hour.
How fast was I going, Constable?
Oh, about 70.
Perhaps you should arrest me.
Perhaps I'll just let you off with a warning. This time. Oh, time! I must go.
Do you have to go just yet?
I must. I've arranged to meet a very dear friend.
Well, good night then.
Good night. If you like, I could show you around the village tomorrow. Help you get your bearings, so to speak. Introduce you to a few people, if you like.
I'd like that very much, yes. Tomorrow then.
Tomorrow. Bye.
Bye. So the next day I did meet with Mary. For some reason she seemed a little more distant than the previous evening. She took me on a tour of the village and introduced me to some of the local characters. They were some of the rummiest birds you can imagine. Bye. Cheerio.
Oh no, it's that spiv Letchford.
Bless my soul, if it ain't Mary Lamington. Oh, I don't know you, sir, but I'm Sid Letchford, independent trader in these parts. Let me know if there's anything I can get you. No rubbish and a fair price guaranteed.
How do you do?
Very well, thanks for asking. Hey, you look like a gentleman of taste. What about these here? Just look at them ties. Silk, beautiful, not even a quid. 10 bob to you. How about it?
No, thank you.
Perhaps a watch?
No.
No, you're right. I can see you might be more interested in something for the lady. Nylons, perhaps. Or how about perfume? All the way from France?
Really, nothing, thank you.
Suit yourself, but I'm around if you want me.
Look, perhaps it's not my business to say, but this country may soon be involved in a war, despite all our best efforts to avoid it. Do you think that the black market will really be doing your bit?
Black market? Black market? I'm an honest, independent retailer, mate. Anyhow, if the war does come, how bad's that? It won't be my war, it's a mug's game.
I'm afraid it's a game that we will all be in together.
Not me, mate. Let the patriots answer the call if they like, or anyone who allows themselves to be dragooned by the state. When they're gone, it'll be more of everything for us, eh?
And if you're called up yourself?
What, with my feet? No chance. I shall be taking care of business. It always looks up in a war. People still want the little luxuries in life, and I'll make sure they can have them.
Yes, I'm sure you'll do very nicely from it.
Anyway, got a dash. See ya.
Oof, that man makes my blood boil.
So, what next?
Well, I've promised to visit Henry's shop. He's had one of those new electric signs made, and he wants me to do the grand switching on.
Hey, Mary. Thanks for coming.
Hello, Henry. Oh, this is Mr. Brand. He's new to the community. He's a writer.
A writer, Mr. Brand. Well, you'll not be short of things to write about in Polfero.
I hope not.
So this is a new sign. It looks very colourful.
It represents the future, Mary. This is the first of its kind in the country. I like to think of it as a new sign for a new world.
Well, in that case, I'm especially honoured to be asked to switch it on.
How long have you been in Polfero, Mr. Lippy?
Moved here 2 years ago. My way of escaping the outside world with its war this, an arms race that, and world domination the other. Can't be doing with it.
A sanctuary, then?
That's right, and there is no more peaceful occupation than a shopkeeper. So you can be sure that while people are shopping, they're not fighting.
You should try the Boxing Day sales.
Well, anyway, I hope that better times are ahead and that the day will arrive when we can all live in peace. I would love to think that I can contribute something, however small, towards a future like that. Of course, what that something will be, who knows? Now, if you're ready, Mary, just hit that switch there. Oh, your 2 eyes, Miss Mary. You're shining like a dagwell.
Hello, Jack. Hello, Jim. I see you're keeping busy.
Busy as a hen digging for daylight.
This is Mr. Brand. I'm showing him around the village. He's new here.
Hello.
Never bloody Devoner.
Pleased to meet you. It seems the real locals are pretty scarce these days.
That's right. If there'd be 2 more of us, we'd be the last 4 in the village.
So, you are the last 2 then?
Yes.
I imagine you'd be familiar with all the characters that come and go about here.
Oh, yes, indeed. Tent nothing goes on here we don't know about, eh, Jim?
That's right. Except for Mrs. Brown and the milkman. We didn't know nothing about that.
No.
And the vicar's wife. And the bell ringers, we didn't know nothing about that neither.
No.
Or the time that...
Like I says, tent much goes on here we don't know about.
Splendid. Anyone in particular that has aroused your interest for any reason?
How do you mean?
Well, for instance, anyone engaging in activities which might seem unusual.
You mean like anyone showing a bit too much interest in the sheep?
Well, no, not really.
You mean anyone who might prefer to dress differently at the weekends and call themselves Daisy?
No.
Then maybe you mean foreigners who during their stay here have developed a formidable network of operatives and who may be ready at a moment's notice to undermine the very fabric of British society?
Yes, that's it, exactly. Anyone like that?
No.
Ah.
Of course, there is the one fellow who stands out a bit. Fellow called Moxon Ivory.
Moxon Ivory? Do you know him?
Don't know nobody else. Calls his quicken in his deep cloth. I can't abide it.
I see. And what would that be in English?
Don't worry, I've become rather accustomed to the dialect. I'll translate. He says, of course he does. He finds him rather a cold fellow and quite difficult to fathom. He doesn't like him.
Aha. And what about your friend here? Can he tell us anything?
He'd know everything about everything, and a lot more besides. He's a plumber in mud.
I'm afraid he doesn't know much. He's not very bright. Perhaps we should be getting on.
All right, well, it's been interesting talking to you both. Cheerio.
Bye, sir. Bye, Miss Mary.
Goodbye, boys. That was rather a strange question to ask, Mr. Brand, about the characters in the village, especially about Moxon Ivory.
No, just idle curiosity, nothing more. I'm sure he's a splendid fellow.
Yes, he is. I can't imagine why Jack doesn't like him. He has a very high standing here, you know. In fact, I can tell you that he's really rather wonderful.
Wonderful? You sound as though you know him very well.
I suppose I should do. He's my fiancé.
Your fiancé?
I haven't told anybody yet, but last night he asked me to marry him, and I said yes.
Ah, yes, the friend who arranged to see, well, congratulations, I'm delighted for you.
Thank you. It all came rather suddenly, really. I was caught quite off guard. You see, I've only known him a short time, but I so admire his ideals, his vision, and the selfless work that he's doing here, that I just want to support him in every way I can. Does that sound terribly naive, Mr. Brand?
I think it sounds rather noble.
Mary, there you are. I was hoping I'd bump into you. You dropped your earring last night. You must be Mr. Brand. Mary spoke of you, but she didn't mention how devilishly handsome you were.
Oh, well,
Moxon, how lovely. We were just talking about you. About us, weren't we? And Mr. Brand, please let me introduce you to my fiancé, Moxon Ivory.
Yes, we were. How do you do?
Splendid. Simply splendid. Do tell.
Tell?
You said you were having a conversation about me. Anything I should know?
Well, hardly a conversation. Mary was simply saying how really rather wonderful you are.
Now you're embarrassing me. Please stop it, Mr. Brand. It was very thoughtful of you, Moxon, about my earring. Will I see you tonight at the Moot?
But of course, my dear, we have a wonderful speaker to address the meeting. Why not bring Mr. Brand? As a newcomer, I'm sure you'll find it fascinating, and we can offer the best seat in the house.
Thank you, I'd be delighted.
Until tonight, then.
So here I was at the Moot Hall. Splendid medieval building at the centre of community life. It seems the entire village was in attendance, eager to have their pacifist beliefs bolstered by the headline speaker. And I had been promised the best seat in the house, but I hadn't expected to find myself seated right next to the chairman, none other than Moxon Ivory himself.
So, in conclusion, our traditional songs and dances keep alive historic events and create a window into the past where we can view our shared cultural heritage of joy and celebration, certainly, but also of pain and despair. War, oppression and slavery, highway robbery, grisly murder, famine, disease, demonic possessions.
Thank you, Mrs. Sutton, for that fascinating talk on English folk songs and dances. I'm sure we will all show a much greater appreciation of the May Day festivals from here on. Now, before I call on this evening's main speaker, I would like to introduce you all to the newest member of our community and invite him to say a few words. Will you please welcome Mr. Cornelius Brand?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, firstly, can I say what an enormous privilege it is to be invited to speak to you all this evening as a new member of your community. I only arrived at Mr. and Mrs. Jimson's lodgings yesterday and was made to feel at home immediately. They had me dusting and cleaning right away. No, really, I've been made to feel jolly welcome, and it's been a pleasant change from some of the hostility one experiences in other places where one's views become known. I've been fortunate to make the acquaintance of some of you already, and I've been impressed with the unswerving resolve at which you adhere to your core principles. For me, I suppose I became a pacifist very early in life, probably as a result of being bullied by my older sister. She put the fist into this pacifist, all right. I soon learned that fighting back just resulted in a worse beating, and so I changed my tactics. I became unbearably pleasant to my sister, whatever she did, and to my great surprise, she could no longer bring herself to hit me. That lesson has formed my philosophy in life. When I heard of this community, I felt at last it was somewhere I could belong, to join others in making this world a better place, and I believe that this is just what we are going to achieve. Peace to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Brandon. Very well said. And now, without further ado, I have the greatest pleasure of introducing you to this evening's main speaker, whom we so warmly welcome. A fearless and indefatigable champion of the cause, Mr. Blenkiron, who tonight has promised us a few surprises.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honour to find myself speaking to friends and kindred spirits alike. And like all of you present here tonight, I can sincerely state that I wish nothing more than a brotherhood of nations, a world that exists without the need to take from our neighbours, a world free from violence of any kind. Indeed, many of you will be expecting to hear me told the virtues of turning the other cheek, no matter what the provocation. Why, look at the great advancements made in the name of freedom by our brothers and the Indian subcontinent, using nothing but passive resistance and peaceful protest. An inspiration to us all, are they not? But tonight, I have a heavy heart. In recent times, grave doubts have presented themselves to me, doubts which are getting graver by the day. And I have come to the belief that in order for us to realize this utopian vision for ourselves, difficult decisions will have to be made. Is it not becoming increasingly impossible for us to ignore the aggressive manoeuvrings of our neighbours on the continent? Manoeuvrings which have simply been encouraged by a policy of appeasement. Friends, countrymen, the time is drawing near where it must be necessary to put the fine principles of pacifism to one side and to fight to suppress the evil which promises to overrun this peaceful realm. Indeed, that evil may already be among us. Enemy agents, subversives, traducers working to undermine our values, to weaken our resolve in the keeping of this great nation of ours from being submersed by the pernicious wind that is sweeping Europe. I propose to ask myself a question. Are there no moral grounds on which we can justify resorting to war? Must we not fight to overcome the tyranny of the jackboot and the oppression of the weak? I say yes, and the fight must be fought at home and abroad, on the land and on the sea, and in the heart of every man, woman and child.
Order! Order! Order!
Mr. Chairman, friends, are we to listen to this tirade? It is not our neighbours on the continent that are responsible for the looming clouds of war. They are decent fellows in a fine democratic mood who wish for nothing more than a union of peaceful cooperation. Indeed, they have never been in any other mood, but are being forced into violence by the plots of their enemies. It is this man, and warmongering flunkies like him, who are the real enemies of peace.
My God, he's got a gun! The man's dead!